ערב טוב קהל נכבד וברוכים הבאים ליוג'ה וואנג.
Hello. Shalom.
Yujha, this is your ninth concert in this series in Tel Aviv. Have you enjoyed your visit to Israel?
Very much. I learned this phrase, Chaval al Asman. It's my first time here in Israel, and I've never really stayed in one country for 2 weeks, so this is a great experience. Terrific. Unforgettable, yeah.
I would like to ask you a bit about China.
Okay.
Because, as we talked before, I really don't know anything about China.
Me neither.
Is China proud of you?
That's lots of people to ask. Well, I left China when I was 14. I was born in Beijing, and I started playing concertizing since age 7. So, I haven't really been back there since I came out of, I'm now living in New York. So, I don't know if they're proud of me, but I'm certainly proud of them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Are you when you travel, do you feel that you represent China?
Not really. I live in New York in U.S. for almost 11 years. Mm-hmm. So actually you feel more American than Chinese now.
Really?
Yeah.
You don't, of course you don't have to be Viennese to play Viennese music, or from Hamburg to play Brahms, or from Russia to play Rachmaninoff, but is there something special about growing up in a culture and performing the art of that culture, or is that something that we as artists have to learn?
Well, for me it was really natural, because the first music I heard was the Swan Lake by Tchaikovsky and the Fantasia. So it's Western music, and I really don't like the traditional Chinese music, the sound of it. And the Chinese opera is always take forever long, so I never liked it. So it's really organic, I guess, for me to kind of play the Western music. Is almost like a mother tongue language for me, and I'm sure for lots of Chinese people. I really never thought of it. It's like that's what music is for us.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Do you think that Western music has an appeal for Chinese people? Do you find that lots of young people listen to Western music?
Well, I guess everyone. I was interested in classical music, symphonies, more symphony than piano music actually, and lieder. And I think, it sounds cliched, but it's so universal, this music language. I really don't think a Chinese person, it's more difficult for a Chinese person to understand German music. I think it's all human. Besides, I think the culture, the essence of Chinese culture is the poetry, and that's what's in the Western music as well. So. It's really connected.
Do you think there's going to be an avalanche of great Chinese artists like yourself and Lang, for instance?
It's been happening, I think, in the last 10 years already.
Is that because there are good teachers? Is it because there are?
Well, I think there were good pianists before. It's just the doors wasn't opened up. There's no YouTube. There's no. The globalization, so it's not, people don't hear of them, but it doesn't mean they wasn't there. But now you hear more. From here, you hear more of those talents coming up, and they're really like aliens, They just jump up, like playing all these rock trees when they're 11 years old. So, yeah.
And are there other, if I were to visit in Beijing, would I be able to find rock bands and jazz bars and things like that? So, in other words, there's like a whole culture of music that I would be familiar with?
Yeah, definitely. It's, every time I go back to Beijing, it's so different. It changes a lot, and every time it's more westernized. I feel like so you'll definitely hear. Well, kind of 20 years back, so you definitely hear Beatles or Madonna in hotels, and yeah.
Well, my kids love Beatles. My daughter's about your age, and they grew up on the Beatles.
I like Rihanna.
And what music do you listen to if you wanna just kind of relax?
I like Rihanna. I like Lady Gaga sometimes. I listen to lots of like Monteverdi singing. That's really relaxing. And I still have my love for symphonic music, like Brahms Symphony, Schumann Symphony, Mahler. Mahler's a little too complicated sometimes. Actually make me more neurotic. And jazz. I love Keith Jarrett and Charlie Parker. So, yeah.
So you grew up in a musical family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my mom's a dancer, and my dad is a percussionist.
So that explains the Swan Lake, your mom being
right,
a dancer.
Exactly.
And so you heard at home classical music, and that was the first trigger, I guess. How old were you when you started playing?
I think 5 or 6. I had teacher when I was 6. So.
Did people immediately, were you like very happily going to the piano, or like me, I hated playing the piano?
I liked it because I thought it was way more. Well, I could do dancing, piano, and gymnastic, and I hated the other two. So sitting there for the piano was like the easiest. So back then I loved. It was an easy initiation.
Mm-hmm. And when you were 14, in your biography it says that you were sent to Canada to learn English. That sounds kind of
sounds a little cruel.
A long way to go to learn English. That's fair.
Yeah. Well, I learned it, so that's good. It's a long story. We had a cultural exchange program between Calgary and Beijing, and China actually, and they had a summer festival. And the third year, I decided to, more like my parents decided for me to stay there, just to experience and to learn English, because they think being independent is the most important thing as an artist. So, but little do they know, they really loved it. I really loved it, the freedom, without parents. So, so at 15, they thought I was gonna go back to China, but I went to Curtis instead, and just enjoyed it immensely.
Well, you were actually already an accomplished soloist at the age of 14, 15 when you went to Canada.
Yeah, more, yeah.
And Gary Grafman was your teacher at Curtis.
Yeah.
He was also Lang Lang's teacher.
Mm-hmm.
What is so special about a teacher that he can turn out so many great players?
Well, all his students are Chinese, so. He's a great performer himself. So for me, I learned lots of concerto under him, and he has all this great experience from a performer point of view instead of, unlike my teacher in China, which is more a professor, like more from the theory point of view. So, and he really developed, all his students sounds really different. So he has a way of letting us develop on our own, kind of like trying to find our own voice, and our own character and our own personality, instead of him trying to tell us what to do. So that was really good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you think there's a basic difference between teaching music in China and teaching music in for instance, in the United States?
It really depends on the individual, I think. I don't find it too different. My teacher, I stayed with my teacher from 6 until 14, and with Gary Goffin, I was with him for 6 years, so long times, and you really develop. It's kind of like each teacher have their own terminologies and their own way of thinking of music. So there's not much difference. Only real difference for me was when I come to Curtis, there was lots more chamber music playing, ensemble training, and we get ideas from conductors more than just one teacher and one student thing. So.
Mm-hmm. You were called on to substitute when some really terrific soloists were sick. The first one, I think, was Radolupo, and then Martha Argerich, and Mary Pariah also. Mm-hmm. What's it feel like to pick up the phone and say, and hear somebody say, Yujia, are you busy next week? Can you play with the Boston Symphony? What's the feeling?
Initially it was very exciting, and then I got used to it. I was like, oh yeah, sure. It's been like that for since when I was, Radulupo was when I was 17, and then Mata was 20. And just between the phone call and the concert just got shorter and shorter. The first time was like 2 weeks, and then a week, and then 2 days. I replaced Bronfman and Kissin as well. And it's like I replaced all my idols. I was kind of hard to believe I do that, you know. But at the same time, I'm very happy. So.
Mm-hmm. And how big is your repertoire that you can fill? Do you have to fill in with the piece that they're playing?
Yeah, mostly. But there's 5 concertos that everyone always wants to hear. So, like Tchaikovsky 1, Prokofiev 3, Mata's, Prokofiev 2, Bronfman was that. But I did have to learn a Mozart concerto C minor for Murray Pariah, and I learned it in a week. So that was cool.
Uh-huh. And where did you sub for Murray Pariah?
I subbed for him twice. One was the tour with St. Martin in the Field, Mendelssohn Concerto and Mozart C minor, and then I substituted him in Paris for a Paris recital.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
For a whole recital?
For the whole that I didn't play his repertoire. I had no Bach or Beethoven. I totally changed it. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Now, when you're in New York, you must not have very much free time. You do 100.
I have lots of free time, just not in New York. Yeah, like this 2 weeks, I had lots of free time.
Okay, 100 concerts a year?
120.
120 concerts. Do you have time to learn new repertoire when you're on the road?
Yeah, it really depends on which direction I want to take. Yeah, so sometimes because I have so many concerts, I just do not want to hear music anymore. So I kind of want to spend my time reading or just walking on the beach or something to kind of relax instead of learning new repertoire. Yeah.
Well, Tel Aviv was a great place for walking on the beach.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I did that.
And when you're in the hotel in those, do you ever get gee, I wish I was home with my family or something like that, or you're already out in the big world all by yourself?
Well, it's been 11 years, so I'm used to that. But it's hard for me to know where home is, because last time I was in New York was New Year's, and I'm going back there for 2 weeks in April with New York Phil. So it's hard. I actually feel like I lived in Israel for a while. I'm kind of sad to leave tonight. Yeah.
Actually, you've been here for more than 2 weeks. It's quite
it's
a
first time for me. I mean, in any country.
That's really putting roots down for Israel. You know?
Yeah, I have my own routines now. I don't know what to do tomorrow without Rock 3 now. Yeah, it's really cool. Mm-hmm. Good food.
Okay. Do you think that music is becoming like an international kind of market? It's just there's just no borders at all. I mean, I guess also Lang Lang is living in the United States. Is that correct?
Who?
Lang Lang.
Oh yeah, yeah. I guess it's the same thing, just traveling around and yeah.
Mm-hmm. That seems it seems kind of a bit like a lonely existence. Maybe not so. Do you have a boyfriend? I have some very nice sons, by the way.
I heard good things about Israeli boys. Yes.
No, I mean, do you have time at all for a social life?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I travel so much and it's recurring. So I have half the time in U.S. and half the time in Europe mainly, and so I do have friends everywhere. Mm-hmm. And kind of, I think there's this second existence in the cyberspace. So that's actually keep half of my time too. Yeah.
When are you coming back next time to Israel?
October. Not far.
You're coming back with Zubin, I think,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, and I'm doing 3 different concertos. And then the Philharmonic is on tour in U.S. So we'll play in New York, LA, Las Vegas.
So the tour actually starts here in Tel Aviv.
Yeah.
And then we go together to the States. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, I hope you come back for many, many visits.
Me too.
In case the audience doesn't know, every night you play another fantastic encore. And the audience has just been going crazy for you. I think it's been a very, very successful visit here.
Yeah, I loved it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoy.